Hello, welcome back to another one of my tutorials. So I got a lot of comments on this bag. So that's what we're going to be making today. So I've actually already finished it. This is Future Kenzie. I'll go through that with you guys, how to make the blue one. It's the same thing as the pink one, I just used different colors. It is a crossbody bag. So the strap is quite long. I do go over how you guys can just make the strap a little bit shorter if you want a shoulder bag, but this is a crossbody bag. I love this size. It's an adaptation of my bookish bag because it literally fits a novel like perfectly. So that's the reason I first made this bag, is because I needed something I can fit my phone and my book in there and just carry it with me. So this bag, I do go over how to make the stripes for the straps as well as the border and how to change up those colors if you want a solid strap or if you want to use the stripes like I did. I go over both of those. Okay, so this bag is made up of a bunch of scrap yarn. That's why I love this pattern so much, is because I always have a bunch of projects going on all at once, and then I have like little pieces of yarn left over. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? So I do go over that I use a 4-weight yarn for all of the squares and everything, as well as the border colors too. You can use any weight, but I do suggest that all of your scrap yarns are the same weight, just so it's consistent and you don't get those bumpy edges. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into it. I'm going to first apologize that it has been raining all week, so the lighting for this tutorial is suboptimal. So this is my apology. Okay, to get started on making this bag, we need to start by making these squares. So that's what I'm going to show you now. But before we start that, we are going to need a 4.5 or a 5mm hook. I used a 4.5 just to make the stitches closer together so nothing falls through your bag. You will also need a few pieces of scrap yarn and an outline color. So I'm doing this bag in blue for the tutorial because I've already done a pink one. So the scrap yarn will be used for these squares here, and then the border color is just this white around the edges. So I'm going to be using this white. It's same as the pink one for the outline color. All of my scraps are a 4-weight. You can use whatever you want, but a 4-weight with a 4.5mm hook I found makes a tighter stitch, so then you don't have to line your bag. So let's get started. We're going to start on making the mini granny squares for the bag. For this size shoulder bag, we are going to make 32 of these little squares. So it's a granny square, but it only has 2 rows. Okay, so 2 colors per square. So I'm going to show you guys how to make these. You can use a magic ring for this, but I like to use a chain 3 instead. It is a lot more stable than a magic ring. So I'm just going to make a slip knot. Put your hook in there, and we're going to chain 3. Now we're going to go into this first stitch here and pull through. You want to make sure that you leave this space here open. That's going to be your center. So we're going to slip stitch through, chain 2, yarn over, and go through the middle of that chain 3. Again, you can use a magic ring here. I just find it a lot more stable for a bag to use a chain 3. So we're going to double crochet here, and one more double crochet into that middle. So this is your first cluster here. That chain 3 started as a double crochet, so that's 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 1, yarn over, and go into the same spot. We're just doing a regular granny square here. 2 more double crochets. There's our second cluster. We're going to chain 1, same thing, double crochet, 2 more, And there's our third cluster. So we're going to chain one, double crochet, 3 more, okay, so they should all be going into that middle of the chain 3 spot that you made. So then it becomes a square here. So I got 1, 2, 3 corners, and this is the last corner. So we're going to chain 1. We're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 space. Alright, now we're going to pull through and secure off. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the yarn and pull through. So the first color is secured. So you're going to grab your second color. Mine is going to be this lighter version of this color. And that's why I like to use scraps for these, because these pieces are so small they don't use very much yarn at all. So you're going to take your second piece of yarn and you're going to make a slip knot again. Make sure you leave a tail long enough to tie when we're done. So slip knot, you're going to tighten that onto your hook. Alright, so you have your slip knot here. You're going to go not into the same corner that your tails are in, you're going to go into a different corner of the granny square. So I'm going to go into this corner here. So without any loop on your hook, you're going to push your hook through there, and then you're going to put your slip knot on your hook here. You're going to secure the yarn by pulling through and then chaining 3. So that's going to be your first double crochet. We're going to go in the same spot with 2 more double crochets. Okay, so continuing the granny square, we're going to skip these 3 stitches and we're going to go into the next corner with 3 double crochets. Okay, after those 3 double crochets in this corner, we're going to make another corner. So you're going to chain 1, and into that same spot, we're going to do 3 more double crochets. So now you've created another corner with a chain 1 space here. So same thing, we're going to keep going around. You're going to skip these 3 stitches and you're going to go into the next corner with 3 more double crochets, a chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets after that. I don't work over my tails because we'll tie them in the back once we're done, so I just work with them behind. Okay, so I made another corner here, 3 double crochets and a chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets. Same thing, skip these 3, go into the next corner, and you're going to make another corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 more double crochets in that same spot. Okay, in your last one you'll have 1 cluster in there, you need to make another one. So same thing, skip those 3, and 3 more double crochets. Chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain there. Okay, once your slip stitch is done, you're going to pull through and fasten off. So we're going to cut this and pull to secure. So now you should have a square. You have all these tails at the end. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to secure those so you don't have to thread them in. So on the back, we didn't work over our tails. So there's 2 of this lighter blue and there's 2 of this darker blue here. Okay, we're going to tie the same colors together with just a regular knot. So I'm just securing these here so they won't go anywhere. So those 2 are tied together, and then I'm going to tie these 2 together. Make sure you double knot it so they don't go anywhere. Now that these are tied together, we can cut them off. This is going to be on the back side of your bag anyway, so no one's going to see these. But making 32 of these and trying to sew in the ends is going to be so frustrating. So I do recommend just tying them on the back because you can't really tell. This is the front. It just makes it very clean. So you're going to need to make 32 of these. So I've made a bunch of these in a bunch of different colors of whatever yarn I had. So you need 32 of these, and then we'll come back and lay them out in the panels that we need. Okay, so refer back to the first square that I just made with you guys, show you how to make it, and then come back after you have 32, and then we'll put them together. Okay, for the first panel, you're going to pick out 12 of your squares and kind of line them up color-wise how you want them. So first panel is going to be 12 squares here. The second one is going to be bigger, so we're just going to set aside our other squares for the moment. So we're going to start with these ones. You're going to take your border yarn, so mine is going to be white. So I'm going to be using the slip stitch method to join these squares together. So we're going to join in between this way, in between each of these squares, and then we're also going to join long ways this way. So I will show you guys how to do it one way this way and one way that way, and then we'll move on from there. So same thing, you're going to make a slip knot. Make sure you have a tail that's at least 2 to 3 inches so you can tie it afterwards. So for this method, I will show you. You have the squares here. You're going to go in the corner of the squares in this one. And then you're going to find the corner through this one here as well. So both of these squares are on your hook. And then you're going to put your slip knot on your hook afterwards. So you're going to tighten that up there. So you're going to pull through your first square and then through your second square. So you're attaching it this way. Is the beginning of your row through those corners. So we're going to go through every stitch now. Instead of just the corners, we're going to go through every stitch. So see these V's here? You're going to go in between those two strands there, so in that V right there, right in between those V's right here, so right in between this one, and you're going to find that first V here and do the same thing, so right for that one. So you're going through this square first and then this one, and then you're going to pull up your yarn in the back. So then you're going to slip stitch through your white square, and then you're going to slip stitch through your blue square. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to pull that second hook through the first one to create a slip stitch. So that's your first slip stitch there. We're going to continue all the way down, so in this V here, and then in the second V here, you're going to slip stitch through both of those and through your white yarn again. We're going to go through the next one, see this V here, through this V, through that V, and then through all of them. So you should be getting this white little border in between those 2 squares. As we continue, you'll see it more clearly. So I'm going to show you to the end of these squares. So through this V, through that V, and then pull through all 3. Okay, we're going to do it again through this V, through that V, and pull through all 3. Oops, there we go. So through this V, through that V, and then through all of them. So now we're up to our second corner. So you're going to go right into that corner space and right into this corner space, just to keep it nice and tight. So through, through this one, through that one, and through there. Okay, so now you have these 2 connected here. So we're going to move up to the next 2 squares here and do the same thing, but between those squares we're going to chain 1 just to secure these. So this one is here, you see the little V's we just did, so these are together now. After we chain one, we're going to do the same thing as we did here, and you're going to go into that corner stitch. Always the right square first, so you always go into the right square and then the left square. So then you're going to put your hook into that corner space as well. You're going to pull up the yarn through the first square, and through the second square, and then through the white. So you see there's a little space here. That's good because we're going to end up going back through this way. That's why we chain one, so there's a little bit more space to do these V's that way as well. So in between each set of squares you want to chain one. So now we have these two connected by the corners. We're going to go into those stitches, so we're going to go into that first V here and the first V here. And we're going to do the same thing, going through the same V's on each side until you get to the corner stitch again. Okay, we're up to the corner, so I'm going to put my hook in that corner and my hook in this corner. You're going to pull through, and then you're going to chain one. So you kind of see the pattern here. You're going from this square, chaining one, this square, chaining one, and then we're going to add these two squares on top of that. Okay, I'm going to continue on to this square, so we're going to do the same thing, starting in the corners, moving up every stitch until we get to the end, and I'll meet you back once we get to the end. So through this one, and through that corner. Remember to chain one in between each stack of squares. Okay, now that you have your 3 rows in this column, and you've reached the end, so I've slip stitched into the corner spaces, we are going to chain 2, and we're going to secure off. Make sure your tail is long enough to be worked over. So you're going to pull out your loop here, and you're going to secure. So the reason we chain 2 is so that this doesn't pinch in the edges, so there's still a little bit of movement so we can get the border all the way around. So we're going to do the same thing that we did to this one, stitching these two up, with this side. So you're going to take this square on this side and these squares on this side, and you're going to do the same thing we just did up the middle, so then you should have 2 of these that look like that. Okay? So I'll meet you back here when I have both of these, and then we'll connect them together. Okay, now that I have both of these, I need to seam them up the middle. So it's the same thing, it's just a little more tricky because you have 2 pieces connected already, so I'll go through a little bit with you guys. I've made a slip knot, and we are going to start on the bottom like we did before. This time I'm going to chain 1 before we start. Getting the yarn in back is going to be a little bit trickier with the middle seam here. So in this corner, I'm going to flip this one forward so I can get the yarn in the back. Pull through that first square, pull through that second square, and pull through that yarn. Okay, so now I'm going to lay these back out. So you want your yarn to be in the back here. We're going to go into that first V and into that second V. Going to pull that yarn up through the back and slip stitch like we were before. Okay, this part is a little bit more tricky, so take your time. We're doing the same thing as before, just slip stitching them together. Okay, and then I'm going to go into this corner and into this corner And same thing, we're still going to chain 1 in between. And we're going to continue all the way up. So just make sure you chain 1 in between this row and this row, and you're doing the same thing as this side. It's just you're working with a lot more fabric. So make sure that your yarn is always in the back behind everything, and you should be good. So I'll meet you back when we get to the top here. So I chained up the middle, and I have chained 2 at the end, so I'm going to secure off and pull. And we'll work over these tails once we do a border around. So now that they're all attached vertically, we're going to have to attach them horizontally. So you see these spaces here? So we've got each column done. Now we're going to turn it, and we are going to have to go up these as well. Same concept, same everything, but you have to be very careful to keep your yarn in the back here because these are already attached. So if you pull it through somehow or some way, it won't look seamless like these ones are right here. Okay, so I'm gonna go with you guys and start on the bottom here. So again, slip knot, make sure your tail is long enough, going into the corners. So it's going to be harder to get that yarn through. So I'm just going to flip it over and put my slip knot on my hook. Okay? And you're going to pull through both of them. So again, like I'm saying, it's going to be a little more complicated now that your yarn has to be in the back. So you can't pull it up this way. It has to stay in the back here. So you're going to go into your next V, and you're going to have to pull it up through the back. See what I'm saying? Getting that yarn through is going to be a lot trickier now. Alright, so you're just going to keep going through the V's, and I'm just working with the yarn in the back. I know you can't see it there, but it's the easiest way. So I'm kind of holding tension in the back so that I can just pull it through. If you can't do that without looking, you're going to have to flip it over every time, wrap it around your hook, and pull that yarn through. Okay? But you have to make sure that your working yarn is in the back behind. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. I'm going to hold tension in the back, slip stitch in these V's, and the corners. We are still chaining 1, but we are going to chain it over the other crossing. So you see this like crosshairs here? You're going to go over it and then chain 1 there. So you can kind of see that it's covering over top of that. So that's your chain 1. Keep your working yarn in the back, and then go into your next V stitches and continue on. So this is trickier than connecting them vertically. So just take your time and you'll do great. So go through every V and make sure that you chain 1 over those posts here that we made before. So I'll get up to the next one with you and show you again. Okay, so I am here now. I'm going to loosen up this here and chain 1 over the top. See what I'm saying? It'll go over your post here, same here, and it'll create a nice grid. So you see I use scrap yarns, and some of them are bigger squares than the other ones. It doesn't really matter because it'll stretch out anyway, and we're going to do a border. So don't worry about them being like perfectly even on the edges, because even like here it won't be. So we're going to continue on until the end. Same thing, you're going to work up in the V's, chain 1 over here, and then work up the V's, chain 2 at the end, secure off like these sides. So the same thing, it's just a little trickier. I'm also going to do the other side here, and I'll meet you back when we've done it up this side and this side. Same thing, doing your RVs, keeping the working yarn in the back, chaining 1 over those trellises there. Okay, so I'll meet you back once I've got the panel finished. Okay, so I've slip stitched vertically and horizontally across these, so they are all put together now. Okay, so at this point, I usually block these, either steam block them or wet block them, just because they tend to curl a little bit. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it does make it a little flatter, like this pink one here. You can tell it's quite flat because of my blocking. So for this video, I'm not going to block it, but just know that you can. So now, with all these tails out, don't cut these tails off because we're going to work over them. I'm going to do a double crochet border, and I'll show you guys how to work over these. Okay, so you're going to start with your outline yarn. I'm going to take a corner. You can start in any corner. I'm just going to start here. And I'm going to pull my slip knot through here. So I have my yarn attached now. I'm going to chain 3 in this corner. And then I'm going to double crochet in that same spot in that corner. Okay? So then in every V-stitch along here, we're going to do 1 double crochet into, and you're going to work over your tail here. So I'm just doing double crochets. To give it a nice clean border so it's not super bubbly. Okay, so I've double crocheted up until here. If you see, this is where our V's started. So there's going to be a space on this side and a space on this side. And we're going to do a decrease here to join them together. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through here, and there's space on this side where this one goes into. That's usually that corner of that square. So I'm going to go through and yarn over. So you should have 4 loops on your hook right now. You're going to pull through 3 of them. So you have 2 now, and pull through those 2. So you just pulled these 2 stitches closer together, so you decrease them there to make 1 double crochet. And you're going to do the same thing along here. You're going to put a single double crochet in each V. So you're just going to continue along. I'm going to show you again. So you yarn over, go in this corner, pull a loop up, find this corner, pull a loop up. So you have 4 loops on your hook right now. You pull through 3 of those loops. So now you have 2, and you pull through those 2. So this just makes it a little bit cleaner of a line so you don't get those dips. See these dips here? So on the top here, it'll make it pretty clean. Okay? So we're going to continue until you get to the corner. Same thing. Okay, so you're doing your double crochets all the way up until this corner of the square here. So there should be that chain 1 space. And you're going to do 2 double crochets in that corner spot. See here, we're going to chain 1, turn, and do 2 more double crochets in that same spot to make a corner. Okay, so you have your corner there. So you're going to continue this all the way around, doing your 2 double crochet, chain 1 in the corners, and then doing your decreases over each of your slip stitch lines. Okay, and I'll meet you back once we get all the way around to the beginning. Okay, so I finished the border all the way around. I'm on the last stitch here, so I'm going to chain 1 and then slip stitch to that first chain that we did there. So I'm going to secure off. Okay, so I worked over all my tails. This is kind of what it looks like on the back, right? So this is going to be the inside of your bag, and this will be the outside. So blocking this would make it a little less bumpy here, but it's fine because we're attaching it to another panel anyway. So it'll kind of even out if you don't want to block it. So this is the first panel. There is 12 squares on here. Our second panel is going to be the same thing for the back. So it's going to have 12 here and then 2 extra rows of 8 for the flap over the top. So you can kind of see here on this pink one, this is the front panel of the 12, and then the back panel makes this flap. So this panel is a little bit larger. So same concept, but it's a larger panel. So I will go over with you how to lay that out, and it's going to be the same thing. Slip stitching it together, it's just a larger panel. So this is panel 1 done. We can set this to the side. Okay, the next panel will be a 5x4 panel instead of a 3x4 panel. So you're adding those extra 2 rows on for the flap that's going over. So we're going to do the same thing that we did on this panel by stitching them together with the slip stitch method. So you're going to go up all the way in between each of the rows, and then you're going to go horizontally. Okay, it's same thing. You can watch the smaller panel again if you need to redo it. I'm going to meet you back when it's all done and border on and everything. Okay, so it's the same exact thing as this one, just in a bigger scale. So it's this plus 2 rows. Okay, so I'll meet you guys back once this panel is done too. Okay, so I have both panels done and ready. I did the double crochet border around this one as well, and this one will be put this way, so it's kind of like, you know, letting you visualize it. It'll end up looking like that. So the next step, if we look at the pink one that I made, the strap around here just continues into the strap up here. This one I made, you can kind of see how long it is. This one's a crossbody. You can make the strap as long as you would like to, but that's the next thing we're going to be doing, is adding the strap. So once we make the full strap, then we add both of these panels to the strap to create the sides and the bottom. Okay, so let's get started on the strap. Okay, to start this strap, I've made a slip knot, and I'm going to make a long chain. So I'm just going to chain as long as I want my strap to be. It doesn't have to be an even or an odd number because we're just going to single crochet back into it. But I will let you know, the color you choose for your foundation chain is what this color is going to be in the middle. I am going to be making this striped handle for the bag. So if you want to do a solid color, that's fine, but I do show you how to make the striped handle here. So your foundation chain is going to be the color of this middle right here. So I chose white, so I'm going to chain as long as I want it. I'm also going to make this a crossbody bag. Okay, so I have my chain ready to go. It's pretty long, but I didn't count the stitches because I just kind of, you know, measured it around the bag. But if you're using acrylic yarn like me, it does stretch quite a bit. So you should, when you're measuring it, stretch it out to see how long it's going to stretch, because once you put weight and things in the bag, it's going to stretch out while it's holding things. So I do have my chain ready to go. So you have your chain here, and you're going to take the beginning of your chain, make sure it's not twisted. So I always run my hand along the V stitches to make sure it's not twisted. Okay, and you're going to go right back into that first chain that we made. Okay, so you're making a loop. You're going to slip stitch these together. Okay, so you have like this big loop going on. For me, I'm going to be using this piece of scrap yarn to make the stripes. So if you want to do a solid color, you can just continue with this yarn. If you want to do the stripes, we're going to be switching colors now. I'm going to put it on my hook. I'm going to pull the blue through the white, and I'm going to tighten the white off now. So we can cut the white yarn. We're going to chain one with the blue, and then in the next stitch we're going to single crochet to secure that, and we're going to tie these two white tails together just so it's secure. So now that we have the blue attached, see these V's here? You're going to only go into the top loop of that V. So when we go into the V, you don't want to go down below. You're wanting to go on the top, just getting that one strand of yarn on there. Okay, so we're going to push it through, and you're going to single crochet. And you're going to do this all the way down, just getting that top loop and single crocheting all the way around. So we're going to continue to single crochet in the chain, getting the top loop only until we get around to the beginning again. So I'll meet you guys when I am all the way around the loop and back to here, and I'll show you how we slip stitch through and make the other stripe on the other side. Okay, so I'll meet you guys back. Okay, so I have made it all the way back around, and I'm just going to slip stitch into that first stitch that we had there. So it is a completed circle, you guys can see. Okay, we're going to keep this yarn on, and we're going to make a stripe on the other side too. So we're going to, okay, so we're going to flip it working wise so that the white yarn is on top, and we're going to be working back into the white yarn. Grab my tails. Okay, we're going to push our working yarn to the back. I'm going to slip stitch in the back of the wrong side of our strap, slip stitch over, so then I can pull this up on this side. So I'm going to slip stitch twice to get across. You guys can see. Okay, so that's on the inside of the strap. So when we flip it to work on it now, the yarn should be in the right spot. I know it can be a little confusing. So these are our tails here. You can kind of see they're kind of annoying and in the way. Here's our loop. So you want to be working right side up, so the V's are on this side. See how this side is bumpy? You don't want to be working into the side, you want to be working in the same side as your single crochets. And we're going to be working back into these white spaces, okay, to make that double stripe. So I'm going to pick up the loop on my hook, and I'm going to chain one. In the next stitch, I'm going to single crochet. There should be some clear holes where we've worked into. You will just work into the back of those spaces there. So it should create this little zigzaggy pattern. So you can kind of see there's like these spaces. You only want that one white loop on your hook. You don't want two of them, okay? So again, you're working into that top loop of those V's to use single crochets. Okay? We're going to do the same thing and work this all the way around the beginning. You can kind of see it's giving that little zigzag pattern in the middle. Working into our foundation chain will bring us back around, but it will also make it flatter because foundation chain tends to be less stretchy. So having this in the middle of our strap will make it more secure. So that's why we slip stitch across the back there. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing my single crochets. So right now I'm going to finish single crocheting all of these and back to here, you got to make sure that your strap is not twisted, because then it won't be able to attach to the panels that we've already made. So you want to make sure everything is completely flat that you've crocheted into so far. Okay, so we're working back into the white stitches here. So I'll meet you back once I've crocheted all the way around, and we're going to slip stitch back into the blue again. Okay, so I'll meet you back there. Okay, I have made it all the way around. So I'm going to slip stitch into that first blue stitch that we made, and I'm going to chain one and fasten off. Okay, so this should be our join here. This should be the only messy part of your stitches. So you should have this like a little white zigzag pattern here. And you see that both of these are like forward facing, and then this is the bumpy back side. Make sure everything is straight. Mine is straight. Okay, so we were working on this side. We are now going to flip it over and work on the wrong side. Just this will keep it nice and straight so it doesn't curl. See how this is starting to curl in like this? You know, it's starting to curl. You want to flip it over to the bumpy wrong side up. You're going to take your center color yarn again, and we are going to attach it into the same area with a slip stitch. And a chain one. Okay, in the next stitch we're going to single crochet, and for the rest of these you're going to go through both of the stitches on top here. So both of those V stitches you can kind of see here, you're going to go through the whole thing and just single crochet through. This will make it pretty flat, so we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so we're going to do single crochets all the way around on this side. When we get back here, we're going to slip stitch into here and tie off. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, so you're going to flip it around and make sure that the blues are on the bubbly side and not the like nice side. You're going to make sure it's the same way, that your white stitches are going to be facing the same way. So once we're done with this side, we're going to move on to the side and do the same thing with single crochets through the V's all the way around, and then you'll be done with your strap. So I will meet you back once I have our finishing white rows on both sides. Okay, now that I have went around each side with the white single crochets, you can kind of see where the join is. I've sewed in all of my ends. So this is the part where we're going to attach these together. So the first one we're going to do is the shorter panel. So you're going to decide which side you want to be the top. For me, I want this side to be the top. So I'm going to line up the seam to be in the bottom area here, probably near this corner. So I'm lining it up. I'm trying to see how it's going to look. So essentially it's going to be like this. So since I want this to be the top, I'm going to start in the left-hand corner, put my hook right in that chain one space there. Once I have my hook in that chain one space, I'm going to put it through the side of the strap here. I'm going to take my border yarn, make a slip knot, and tighten it around your hook. So I'm going to pull that through both pieces of fabric there, and I'm going to chain one. That secures them together. See, they're attached. So now you should be able to line up the V's here. Each V is going to get a single crochet. So I'm going to go through this V, and I'm going to go through this V, and I'm going to do single crochet. I'm going to follow that all the way down. Single crochet. You want to match up the V's here because we're connecting them with a single crochet. So you wanted to go through both V's, as you can see here. Okay, so we're single crocheting through those V's together. This will connect both panels pretty seamlessly. Alright, we're going to do this all the way until the corner here, and then I'll show you how to do the corner. Okay, now that we're at the corner, we are going to line up your V's like I have here and single crochet into the corner, and you are going to do 2 more single crochets, so it will turn your work. And you want to be in 1 stitch on this side and 1 stitch on that side. Okay, so you're doing 3 total in that one space, and then you're just going to line up your V's again and single crochet along the bottom. Okay, so you're going to single crochet these together all the way along the bottom. You're going to do 3 single crochets in the corner, and then you're going to stitch this side all the way up until the top of the bag. And then I'll meet you back once we get to the top here. Okay, I've single crocheted both this side and the top to each other, and I'm at the end here. So see the corner right here? I'm going to just single crochet into the corner and into the next stitch, and chain 1 to fasten off. So that's it. It's connected here on this side, and you just leave this one open so then the flap can cover over it. Okay, so we are going to cut this off and secure it. Okay, and then we'll sew these ends in afterwards. Okay, so this is the front side, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to attach the back. So this eventually is going to be folded over, so you have to decide what you want to be on the flap. So we are going to do the same thing we did here, except we're stopping and starting at the 12 squares and leaving this as a flap. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to flip it over, and you're going to flip this over. It's already in the shape you need it, which is very great. So we're going to line up the bag here, so it's going to be this line here. So you have 12, so it's 3 rows of 4. So at this point right here, we're going to start. So then it's seamed evenly. And I'm going to line it up here to across from this one that we sewed into. So it's going to be this stitch right here. So I have both of those on my hook. We're going to make another slip knot. And we're going to pull through and chain 1. From here we're going to do the same thing and go through both sides and single crochet to join them both in those V's. I'm going to single crochet these together until I get to the corner, and I'll show you what to do there. Okay, so we are at the corner now. You can kind of see here's the next space. So we're going to push through there and push through the next stitch. And we're going to single crochet 3 times in that same space to turn our work. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing and go into each of these V's with a single crochet, and that will join them all together. We're going to do the same thing For this corner, we're going to do 3 single crochets in that one stitch, and then before you reach the end over here, a few stitches before that, I will meet you guys back so I can show you guys where we're going to stop and join. Okay? Okay, so to know where to stop on the larger panel, you're going to want to only go to the 3rd section. So you want to have 3 sections here and then stop at this line right here. So I'm making sure that it's the same on both sides, so I'm going to do one more stitch. And then I'm going to fasten off. So all we have to do now is sew in these ends. And now that the ends are sewed in, it is finished. Look how cute. So that is the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I know I got a lot of comments asking for a tutorial on my TikTok, so here it is. If you like this video and you would like more, click that like button and hit that bell over there to get notified when I post any more tutorials. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you could subscribe, that would really help out my channel so I can do more of these tutorials for you. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope to see you in the next one.